Imagine walking into a bank, hoping for a chance to secure a loan that could change your life, only to be laughed at and dismissed. That's exactly what happened to a young Black woman, just trying to get the financial support she needed to pursue her dreams. But what if I told you that a month later, the very same people who mocked her would be eating their words? What if, against all odds, she turned the tables and became the CEO of a company that would make them regret their actions? This is the incredible story of perseverance, ambition, and revenge, where a simple moment of humiliation turns into a powerful lesson. How did she go from being ridiculed at a bank to rising to the top? Stick around to find out, because what happens next will shock you. This is a story of turning adversity into triumph. The woman's name was Jasmine. She had always been determined, even when life tried to knock her down. Growing up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce, she knew her only way out was through education and hard work. With a degree in business, Jasmine had big dreams of starting her own company. But to do that, she needed a loan, something the bank had the power to provide. When she walked into the bank, nervous but hopeful, she never imagined the response she'd get. The loan officer, a middle-aged man with a dismissive tone, barely looked up as she spoke. The others in the office chuckled, as if her ambition was some kind of joke. They told her her application would be declined, too risky, they said. Jasmine left that bank humiliated, but with a fire in her heart. What they didn't know was that this was just the beginning of her journey. Jasmine spent the next few days in a haze of frustration and disbelief. She couldn't shake the image of those smug faces, the way they'd laughed at her dreams. But instead of letting it break her, it fueled a determination she hadn't known she had. Jasmine didn't just want a loan anymore. She wanted revenge, and more than that, she wanted to prove to herself and to the world that she was worth more than their narrow-minded judgment. She spent countless hours learning everything she could about finance, business strategies, and the art of entrepreneurship. Every time she heard that mocking laugh in her head, she used it as motivation to push harder. At night, she'd dream about the day when she'd walk back into that same bank, not to ask for a loan, but to show them that they had underestimated her. But Jasmine wasn't the only one who had a stake in her success. Back at the bank, the loan officer, Mr. Daniels, had no idea how much damage his careless dismissal had caused. He thought it was just another day at work, another application to deny. Yet something about Jasmine's persistence began to gnaw at him. It was more than just an instinct. It was a sense that he might have made a huge mistake, one that could come back to haunt him. As the days passed, both Jasmine and Mr. Daniels felt the weight of that unspoken tension. For Jasmine, it was a countdown, a race against time to build something that would make those who had underestimated her regret their actions. For Mr. Daniels, it was the nagging thought that he might have just written off the very person who would one day walk back through those doors and turn the tables. Neither knew just how entwined their fates were about to become. Months passed, and Jasmine's life began to change. She took every setback, every no she received, and turned it into something productive. She scraped together whatever she could, investing her time, building connections, and learning the ins and outs of business. The idea for her company started to take shape, and with it, her vision became clearer. She wanted not only to be successful, but to build something that could make a real difference in her community, offering opportunities where there were none before. At the same time, the bank's internal dynamics began to shift. Mr. Daniels found himself under increasing pressure to meet his quotas, and it weighed heavily on him. He'd heard whispers about a new startup in the area, a company making waves, led by a young woman who had gone from nothing to something. Someone who just happened to bear a striking resemblance to the girl he'd dismissed months ago. The thought kept him up at night. Jasmine's company was gaining momentum, attracting investors, and making headlines. Every time she saw her name in the news, she thought about those faces at the bank, their dismissive attitudes, and their underestimation of her. She wasn't just out for personal success anymore. She wanted to show them that there was so much more to a person than what meets the eye. Then one evening, the opportunity she had been waiting for arrived. She was invited to an exclusive event, a networking gala for local business leaders. And guess who was attending? Mr. Daniels. The moment Jasmine spotted him across the room, her heart skipped a beat. He was talking to a group of people, his suit impeccably tailored, looking every bit the part of the man who had rejected her dreams so casually. Jasmine felt a cold wave of determination wash over her. This wasn't just about business anymore, it was personal. Her company was on the brink of something huge, and this was her moment to show the world, and him, exactly what she was capable of. The tension in the room felt thick as she made her way toward him, the air heavy with unspoken words, the past and present colliding. What would happen when she finally faced him? Would he recognize her? Would she have the courage to confront him, to lay bare everything she had built in the face of his dismissal? The anticipation was electric, and every step she took seemed to lead her closer to a showdown neither of them could have predicted. As Jasmine made her way across the room, her heart pounding in her chest, she noticed something that made her stop dead in her tracks. The familiar, confident figure of Mr. Daniels wasn't alone. He was standing next to someone who, at first glance, seemed completely out of place, a woman in her mid-30s, sharp features, dressed in a sleek power suit. The woman was laughing at something Mr. Daniels had just said, but it wasn't the casual, business-appropriate laugh that caught Jasmine's attention. It was the way the woman's eyes flickered over to her, sharp and calculating, as if she had been waiting for this moment. Jasmine's mind raced. The woman was no stranger. She recognized her immediately. It was Olivia Grant, a prominent investor who had a reputation for backing companies with little regard for the people behind them. Olivia was known for her cutthroat approach to business, taking advantage of anyone who stood in her way. Jasmine had heard whispers about her before, rumors of her deals, her manipulative tactics, and her ability to swallow up small companies without a second thought. What was Olivia doing here, talking to Mr. Daniels? A sinking feeling spread through Jasmine's chest. It wasn't just about Mr. Daniels anymore. This wasn't some random businessman who had laughed her off. It was now clear that her entire journey had drawn the attention of a powerful woman who had no intention of letting her rise without a fight. The stakes had just been raised, and the room suddenly felt like it was closing in on her. Olivia's eyes flickered back to Jasmine, and for a moment, their gazes locked. There was no warmth in the glance. It was cold, calculating, a challenge. Jasmine could feel her resolve hardening. She had come here to show Mr. Daniels her success, to make him realize the mistake he'd made. But now it was clear. The real battle was just beginning. Olivia Grant had her own plans, and Jasmine was just a piece on a much larger chessboard. Without another moment of hesitation, Jasmine approached the pair, her heart racing, her thoughts sharper than ever. If she was going to survive this game, she would have to be ready for whatever curveball came next. As Jasmine approached, she felt the weight of every step, her mind racing with a million thoughts. She knew this was it, the moment where everything would either come together or fall apart. But as she reached the table where Mr. Daniels and Olivia stood, something unexpected happened. Before she could even introduce herself, Mr. Daniels looked up, his eyes widening in recognition. "Jasmine, is that really you?" he asked, his voice faltering for the first time in what felt like forever. The room seemed to hold its breath, every eye drawn to the tension that hung in the air.